If Joe Biden is the nominee, we're going to lose in November. We're going to lose in November, and Donald Trump is going to walk all over him on the debate stage if he becomes the nominee. What has happened? What happened during Super Tuesday, during the first Super Tuesday? What happened was the establishment, Barack Obama in particularly, made a phone call. He made several phone calls to the people who are in the race currently and people who weren't even in the race and people that were in his administration. He told all of them to coalesce around Joe Biden and to endorse him the eve before Super Tuesday, the first Super Tuesday, in terms of all the southern states that went. Then you have all the southern states voting. Just fast forward to Super Tuesday, the night of, and I'm watching results coming in, and I'm watching exit polls, and voters in every single state supported all of Bernie Sanders' policies, but they supported Joe Biden because they believe that he's the best person that can beat Donald Trump. This notion that Biden is the greatest candidate that can beat Donald Trump, this narrative was created by the media industrial complex. And every time you turn on CNN, MSNBC, that's all they're talking about. ABC, any type of news station, NBC, that's all they're talking about is how he's the only electable person against Donald Trump, even though he's a gaffe machine. He can't even really form a complete sentence, literally. Like, there's gaffe compilations of Joe Biden fucking up miserably over and over again on the campaign trail, and videos of him going into episodes going off on people for no reason, basically, just because they're challenging him on his positions. And this is the person that the Democratic Party is trying to push forward in terms of being the nominee. Now, who's voting for Biden? You have to ask yourselves that. Who's voting for Joe Biden? It's predominantly, like I said, throughout the South, and how he's been able to rack up an astronomical amount of delegates, even though the mainstream press and media, they took a long time on purpose to call California for Bernie Sanders, and they're taking a long time to call Washington for him, and several other states. Joe Biden, he has essentially swept the whole entire South, and it's mainly black people that's voting for him. He got North Carolina, he got Virginia, he got South Carolina, he's got Alabama, he's got Tennessee, he's got Missouri, he's got Mississippi. Like, he's just wiping Bernie Sanders out in terms of the South. And ultimately, like I said, and I have made the notion about this a while back ago, before this election even started, there's a deep divide in the Democratic Party between older voters and younger voters. Bernie Sanders won voters under 45 overwhelmingly by over 70%, and Joe Biden did the same thing with voters on the flip side of that. And the only problem with that is the voters on the flip side of that, which are Joe Biden voters, vote extremely higher than younger people do. And that's just the state of the race right now. So Joe's been running it up in the South. I'll give him credit for that. He's been running it up in the South, using that Obama-Clinton strategy. Win the South and you'll most likely have a nomination. And that's what Joe Biden has done. But, like I said, he still has to go toe-to-toe with Bernie Sanders on the debate stage. And this is where Papa Bernie is just gonna have to take some notes from Donald Trump. And shockingly to say that, it's the truth, because we need a progressive Trump, someone who's going to expose Joe Biden for who he is. There's been a nostalgia created by the mainstream media, and quite frankly, it's resonating with older people in terms of the voting bloc of our party, older black people and just older people in general, really rural voters as well, just older people in general. And that's the problem that we're facing now, because the mainstream media and press are pushing his image every single day on television, telling you that he's the only person that can beat Donald Trump, when it's not the case. He's the most vulnerable person against Donald Trump. He's Hillary Clinton 2.0. He's worse than Clinton was, because he's a lying machine, and on top of that, he's a gaffe machine. This is the person they want to be the president. Let's see how this works. The math is still there for Bernie to virtually overtake Biden. But the only way that would happen is Joe Biden has to completely fall on his face during the debate between him and Bernie Sanders. And not only that, but Bernie Sanders must go after Biden and his competency, go after his cognitive state. He must go after Joe Biden's dementia. He must go after Joe Biden on his lies, and he must stay on the offensive and attack. That Trump mentality, only with a progressive manner. But the problem is, that's not in Bernie Sanders. That's just not in him. It's not in him in terms of that front, being on the offensive of all times. He always constantly is pushing his policies, which America agrees with. He's winning that battle in that sense, but he's not winning the electability argument, which is kind of a contradiction. People just don't know. And it hurts me to say that, but people just don't know that Joe Biden is a gaffe machine. He's a lying machine. And he's going to go against Donald Trump, who's going to expose him tremendously, expeditiously, just to put it lightly. Trump is already starting to talk about it in campaign rallies, how Joe Biden is a gaffe machine and how the horrible trade agreements is why he's going to lose the Rust Belt. He won Michigan, to be clear. He won Michigan from Bernie Sanders. I'm still trying to figure that out myself. Believe me, I'm still trying to figure that out. But in a roundabout way, I believe this is somewhat of a realignment of our political map as we know it, because there's more ways to get to the presidency than just to win the Rust Belt. A lot of people don't know that, but there are more ways to get there than just that route. You could win the Sun Belt and run it up in other places where you know you can do well in and have a path to the White House that way, or a path to the nomination that way. But Bernie Sanders lost Texas, which I thought he was going to win, but he lost Texas. He won California, but he ended up losing Texas, like I said, the eve of the whole entire primary. All you see is an avalanche of endorsements for Joe Biden. You see Susan Rice come out for him. You see Cory Booker come out for him. You see Beto O'Rourke come out for him. Pete endorsed him. Amy endorsed him. Joe got all this endorsement coverage, and on top of that, just the mainstream media just pushing him in everybody's face, basically saying he's the only person that can do this. And it's just not the case, and it's not true, but people have felt for it. How does that make sense? You agree with Bernie Sanders on his policies, which matters the most, but you're voting for Joe because you think he's better. Even though Joe doesn't support Bernie's policies, you still like Joe better. What the fuck, America? Joe Biden goes on next Tuesday to win Florida, Arizona, Illinois, Ohio. If he takes Florida alone, really, the race will be over at that point, and he'll be the Democratic nominee. And he will lose to Donald Trump, and Donald Trump will see another 4 more years. Because I'm telling you right now, I'll be one of those people that don't vote. I will not vote for Joe Biden. I just can't do it. Y'all will have to learn your lesson. You will have to learn your lesson once more again. I learned my shit the first time with Hillary Clinton, but y'all will have to learn it this time, and it's gonna hurt. The way Hillary Clinton lost, which is how some media pundits were picking up on television live on the air, Jake Tapper being one of them. He simply said, Joe Biden is not doing well with young people. The same thing Hillary Clinton struggled with, which is why she lost her election. Not only that, but she struggled to bring out people who do not vote. And this is another thing. Bernie Sanders has won independents in this contest so far. He's won independents and young people by far. It's not even close. But yet Joe Biden is still winning because he's winning older black people and older people that are living in these upper class suburbs, essentially, which is why Warren hasn't endorsed anybody yet, because they understand it could significantly sway this election. Really, they say her endorsement wouldn't mean nothing, but it would, because those suburban voters would follow her in what she's saying, in essence. But the suburban vote is just completely going all the way to Joe Biden right now, on top of old people voting for him. And to be honest with you, that's a combination for success in terms of winning the Democratic primary. It sucks, guys, but that's just where we're at. The rules are rigged against us. Even Hillary Clinton admitted that he's rebuilding the same coalition that she did, not knowing that she was really saying she built a losing coalition, and she's basically saying he's doing the same. So the math is still there for Bernie Sanders to overtake Joe Biden. He has lost the South, he's lost Texas, but he's won California, he's won Utah, he's won North Dakota, he's won Washington. We have to take the wins that we do have and take them and expand quick and fast, because if we do not, Joe Biden will be the nominee, and they're going to push him forward because they're already trying to virtually cancel the debates. So it's crucial, this debate coming up. Bernie Sanders has to turn into a Trump to obliterate Joe Biden on the stage. And Biden strategically did things that hurt us. He worked with a segregationist. Donald Trump never worked with any segregationists to push any bills through Congress or anything like that. Not that I know of so far. But Joe Biden has. Biden, even Trump, is to the left of trade than Biden is. Biden is terrible when it comes to trade, which is what Bernie has been pushing and saying this whole time, which is why it shocked me so much that Biden won Michigan. Michigan, that will forever be an anomaly to me, which is why I believe the political map might be realigning itself right now before our very eyes. We might not know it. Our ordeal can still be solved without Michigan, but it has to start quick and fast. But the way things are going now, Biden will be the nominee, and it's because of the media industrial complex and the wonderful job they've been doing for years at this point, ever since Trump has been elected, to push Biden as the only person to beat Donald Trump. And it's just free propaganda at his disposal. Biden didn't go to a single state that he won in either of these Super Tuesdays, other than a couple states that are obviously the most important in the second Super Tuesday. But the first Super Tuesday, other than South Carolina, Biden didn't go to a single state in probably like 2 or 3 months. So that just shows you the power and sophistication of the media industrial complex. Painting a narrative in front of everyday people, everyday working class people, not thinking much of it when they come home. They turn on the news because that's the only news they have. A lot of people go to independent media in various forms and outlets such as this one and others to get their information from, and to really truly, how can I put this, get a true essence of what's going on in the society. But mainstream media and the media industrial complex have done a great job painting the notion that Joe Biden is the complete candidate because he's just perfect, and because he was Barack Obama's vice president, the first African American, he is entitled to the nomination, and he's entitled to black people's votes. And to be honest with you, I mean, hell, the voters are backing that notion up because they're consuming this content on a daily basis. So that's what they believe themselves. It is a scary thing, it really is, but the power of media is sophisticated as fuck. So in order for Bernie Sanders to move forward, he's got to win Florida. It's like damn near a must, and he's getting killed there in the polls right now. Like I said, I don't take the polls into heavy consideration because things are happening on a daily basis. And on top of that, it doesn't paint the whole narrative of the electorate in terms of the state itself. And yes, like a trend, that's how they analyze different things with politics, is through different trends and things of that nature. But like I said, it's not a representation of the whole population. So that's my problem with polling. But yeah, in terms of forecasting, and the forecasts have been right thus far, I have to admit. But for a couple states though, like Minnesota, Maine, Massachusetts, all supposed to go for Bernie quite fairly easy, and they got those couple states wrong. Maybe those were just a couple of anomalies, who knows? But the forecast show Bernie getting plummeted in the states coming up. But there still is a debate. There still is a debate that Biden must show that he is competent and cognitive enough to lead in and actually speak in for a long duration than what he has ever been used to, because he'll be the only person on the stage with Bernie Sanders. So we'll see. But I don't think he's gonna be able to hold the candle to Bernie Sanders, and he could possibly be exposed, and that's what will have to happen. He won't be exposed in a Trumpian way, because Trump wouldn't give a fuck, and he would just call it for what it is. Bernie must go after his record. Bernie must go after him as a person. But he always says, my friend, my friend, my friend, my friend Joe. I'll debate my friend Joe this Sunday. Bernie, you're getting fucked. You're getting fucked. I love you to death, but you're getting fucked. You gotta stop calling him your friend. He is not your friend. This man is the enemy of the people. I look at him like a Republican, like Donald Trump. He's an enemy of the people, and he must be eviscerated. And you're not doing that. This is an election. This is a race. This is a competition. He's Uncle Joseph Biden that's being backed and fully funded and supported by the media industrial complex and the Democratic machine incumbent of Obama and his political staffers and allies and advisors that he has running Joe Biden's campaign, and they're trying to help him sustain a successful race and coast him along into the White House, basically. That's what they're attempting to do, and quite frankly, they're succeeding as of right now. We must stop that. If we don't stop it, Biden will be the nominee, and he will lose to Donald Trump. And hell, at that point, it's just gonna be me saying, I told you so, I told you so, I told you so. Bernie has won, I guess you could say, the battle, and Biden's winning the war right now because everyone agrees with Bernie Sanders and his policies. But they believe Joe Biden is more electable. That could change just like that. That could change just like that. But Bernie has to call him out, and he has to expose Biden. He's got to expose Biden. If he doesn't expose Biden on his lies and expose him on his dementia, Biden's just gonna coast to the nomination. That's what Bernie has to do to turn this race around. This is a competition. The math is certainly there for Bernie Sanders to come back. There's still more than 2,000 plus delegates left, and he's only down from Biden less than 100 and something delegates because California is coming all the way in now, and it's been called fully for Bernie Sanders. So the ball game is still being played. The ball game is still being played, but Bernie Sanders must be on the offensive and attack Joe Biden and eviscerate him, turn that into campaign media and push that shit and push it hard in the states that are coming up. If he does that, he could turn this election around, but he doesn't do that. Joe will just coast to the nomination. He'll coast to the nomination. Then we'll have 4 more years of Donald Trump. Keep fighting, keep fighting, keep fighting. Attack, attack, attack. Attack, Bernie. Attack, attack, attack.